It's Kasra Alam here on the Asian Network, and right now, 12 here on a Wednesday afternoon, it's time for our fortnightly What's God Got to Do With It slot. Continuing today, we're going to be talking about sex again. Continuing row over kids at a school in Birmingham being taught about same-sex relationships. This is something we've covered on the programme for a couple of times now, mainly in the first hour, but now we're going to be discussing it from a religious point of view as well. Muslim and Christian parents at Parkfield School have been protesting about LGBT lessons, which they say are wrong. However, following an inspection, Ofsted, which set standards for schools, says the classes are age appropriate, and its chief, Amanda Spielman, recently said religious background shouldn't matter. So what's the way forward? Obviously, as always, I would like you to get in touch and let me know your thoughts. 03459 440 445 is the number to ring. You can also text 81869 or WhatsApp 07920 500 200. And here in the studio with me to talk about this, we have Thana Al-Gaban, a practicing Muslim, and also Jasveer Singh, who's a Sikh. We've also got Bhavid Mehta, a Hindu, over in a separate studio as well. Good afternoon to you, Bhavid. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Not too bad. I'm going to come to you first of all on this,
sure.
Before coming to our two guests here in the studio. What are your initial thoughts then on this row over LGBT lessons at Parkfield School?
Well, I've been following this somewhat on the news. I can see it from both perspectives. I think it is important for people in schools to be aware of, diversity in our society and different types of people, including LGBT. But I also understand from the perspective of parents that are not sure what's going to be taught to their children, how is it going to be presented, and if they all of a sudden find out that their children are having, lessons around same-sex couples and things like that, that might cause concern, particularly if they come from religious backgrounds where these things are very sensitive. So I do see it from both, and I can talk about it from both. My gut feeling is that I think it is possible to teach these things in schools, but it has to be presented in a certain way that is mindful of that sensitivity.
Interesting. Tana, what are your thoughts adding on to Bhavid there?
I kind of don't agree.
Fair enough, then feel free. This is what it's all about.
Yeah, I believe that, it's something that just like everyone has their right to live, however they want. I respect everyone's choice of how they want to live their life and, what sexuality they choose to take. But I also believe that I should have the choice to be able to decide whether or not it's something that's instilled within my child's education. Growing up, that's something that I would rather bring up to my child. Like, I believe the onus is on the parents to raise their children, because I remember there was an issue of whether they become sort of accepting of members of the having equality basically for all people. So that onus is on the parents to teach that to your child and present it in the manner that you want it presented, and not give it to someone, an establishment that is trusted by the child, where they kind of take everything, children take everything from school. So the way that it's presented to them, they're going to take. And I'm not really okay with it being normalised, although I respect everyone's choices. I'm not okay with it being normalised to my child when it's something that I don't agree with in my culture or my religion.
Okay, we'll come back to both of you on this, Bhavid and also Thana. But before that, Jasveer, what are your thoughts?
I agree with the point that parents should be able to have the last say when it comes to kind of what their children are being taught. But at the same time, I think we have to be mindful, as Bhavid said, not just of where the sensitivities lie for parents, but also where their kind of positions stem from. And when we're looking at what some of the parents said in this particular situation, they're shouting at teachers, shame, shame, holding up placards saying no outsiders, it's not okay. I think that kind of, it does align them with a bit of a kind of, there's probably a better word for it, but to my mind, hateful stance of the way they view this topic and I guess homosexuality. So I think there needs to be more space for that to be taught in a way where we understand that actually it is normal. In the sense that it's a normal part of society. If you go anywhere in the world, you're guaranteed that there's going to be homosexual communities, whether they're hidden because of the culture of the country, or whether they're open in like they are in the West. And so normalizing it to me is just sensible, because we do want to tackle prejudice. We do want to ensure that there is equality in treatment for all.
Tana, what are your thoughts there to Jasveer?
I think basically taking the reactions of a couple of angry parents because they've been put in the thing is not the way to kind of judge the stance against it. Because for instance, I have many friends who are homosexual. I have many people. I've even got people in my distant family that kind of go that way, and it's not a case of not accepting it within the society. Of course, it's it's here, it's everyone. But I want it to kind of come up as they grow up. Like if it's there in front of them, I want to be able to explain it. Yeah, this is it, and teach them that actually, we're all free to live as equals, in the country that we've chosen to live in. But to normalise it is the point where I take issue with, because it's not like it's...
Why not? If Jasveer says that this is something that is normal, that you can find everywhere...
Of course you can find it everywhere, but it doesn't I feel like it's kind of like... It's like a world gone mad. Eventually, in a couple of years, someone might want to identify as a pineapple. Like, do we then start normalising it? Do we start introducing it to a syllabus? Like, normalise it in society.
I mean, if there were millions that felt that way, then I guess we'd have to ensure that, we're not discriminating. It's difficult. I don't think we should go to that end of the spectrum. That's the extreme end of the spectrum when we're kind of, comparing it to that. But
so what I was trying to say is that we can socially accept people being pineapples, but we don't need to introduce them into our syllabus, into our education. I grew up not thinking that being a homosexual was okay, but I've grown up to be an adult who's open-minded, who accepts people and believes everyone has the equal right. Even though being a Muslim, I believe everyone has the equal right, whether they want to get married, whether they want to, do whatever they want to do. I believe that, but I was still raised in a family with a belief that it's not okay. It's not okay for my religion, and it's not a norm. It doesn't change the way that we are accepting of these things growing up. That's the onus. I'm saying the onus is on the parents to teach our children to be decent human beings, respectful of other human beings.
Okay. Barvid, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so Tana, you've used the word people who choose to be this way a couple of times so far, and I just have to clarify that I don't think anyone chooses to be gay or lesbian or whatever. Okay, it's something which you're either born that way or you become that way, but it's certainly not something that is chosen. Now, I'm openly gay. I'm a Hindu. I wasn't out for a long time. I am now. It's taken me a long time to get to that point, and this is certainly not something I chose. So I think you should just correct.
I apologise for that. I didn't mean it the way it's come out.
So the point, I think when the whole point of bringing this subject into the syllabus, let's look at it from a very broader, abstract perspective. Why should this be in the syllabus? I think it's just about making sure that young people in this country understand that human beings are not boxed into categories. Okay, we're all diverse in all different ways, whether it's our religion, whether it's our color of our skin, whether it's our ethnicity, whether it's the languages we speak, whether it's our sexuality, whether it's our physical ability, or whether it's our sort of neural ability. Some people are introverts, some people are autistic, some people are Asperger's, all different types of things. So it's important for young people at that age in primary school to understand and appreciate that human beings are different. And I think that's the bigger point that we are trying to do here, not trying to show young primary school children that, here's a man with another man, here's a woman with another woman. I don't think it's about trying to encourage them or encourage homosexuality in primary school. This is how it's been reported, or how it's been...
Barvid, I understand what you're saying there. It's been reported like that a couple of times, because that is a concern that parents have.
Exactly.
And there's been anecdotes where children have come home. I've actually spoken to people on the programme who said, look, either my son or I know someone who came home and was like, so-and-so is my friend. Do I need to now hold his hand? They've been confused is what they're saying.
No, I get it, and I think that Ofsted is wrong. Actually, I think Ofsted is wrong to say this is how it should be done. I think that there's always a process in this. So I'll give you a little bit of an example. If you give me just 30 seconds to give this example.
Go on, then I'm counting 30.
One of my best friends in Bombay, she runs an NGO for child sexual abuse. Right, it's a massive problem in India, and something needs to be done about it. She has created a teaching program that tries to prevent child sexual abuse by teaching young people in schools, at primary school, secondary school level, what is acceptable forms of touching, what is not, and what to do if someone comes and does something to you, what should you do? It's a very simple thing, but it's a preventative mechanism. Now, she goes into schools, a whole team of people go into schools, and lots of parents object. So what they now do is they first meet with the parents, and they explain this to their parents and say, look, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. This is the importance of it. And it's for the benefit of your children and the benefit of your family.
Sure, Bhavit, they've already done that in this case as well.
Well, that needs to be done more. I think that just to sort of do it once as a tick box exercise, and then
I don't think I understand what you're saying, Bhavit, but I don't think it is a tick box exercise, because what has been going on for a while is that they do bring parents in, explain what's going to be on the syllabus to them, and then give them the opportunity to remove the child if they don't feel that is something that they want. That is now going to change. Let's read a couple of messages out first of all, and then I've got a couple of questions for all three of you, in fact. So this message first of all saying, not discussing this with children is exactly how hate breeds in communities. If white people turn around and said that they are pulling their children out of RE because they teach aspects of Islam, Sikhism or Hinduism, we would be all up in arms. It's just hatred towards gay people, scientifically proven that being gay is natural, and if you believe in God, then what you are is God made a mistake. Let's get your thoughts on that, Tana. I'll come to you first.
Sorry, I wasn't ready for that. But I do think it's a bit ridiculous to compare a sexual orientation with religions that are like thousands of years old, like that.
Why not? Isn't homosexuality not been around for thousands?
I wouldn't compare being straight to being. It's something that might have been around for many years, and even back in the days of the Prophet, it was there. It might have been there, but it's not something that has been carried on as a norm by the majority. It's been hidden. It's been shushed and brushed under the carpet, so to speak. It's not something that I wouldn't expect anyone to be comparing my sexual orientation with the religion that's been
is that part of the issue, Jasveer?
I mean, I think I'm a bit confused here. I'm not sure what we're actually, how we're comparing the two.
This is what this WhatsApp's saying here, yes.
From my perspective, I think the Sikh faith is kind of very clear on how we view everyone in the world, and that's that all have the light of God within them. The Sikh faith teaches completely against discrimination of any kind of person or of any kind of background for any reason, and there's no kind of sayings within Gurbani Sikh scripture which is against any particular community, especially kind of in the Abrahamic sense, where you read certain lines about what should be done to homosexuals, and you kind of like, quite a lot of people are left aghast at how these things can still be taught. So I mean, when it comes to faith, the Sikh community, I work with the Sikh Press Association. Our founder marched with the LGBTQ community in 2016 after the massacre in Florida at a nightclub. So, I mean, I don't think that there's anything within the Sikh community
bring the two together. No.
I think that, well, I mean, more than that, I think the Sikh faith will just kind of place everyone within this, one human race bracket that we won't judge anyone on.
See, it's interesting you say that, because the last time we did this, we had a number of people who follow the Sikh faith saying, I wouldn't want this in mind. I wouldn't want this being taught to my children as well.
That's completely fair as well. Like I said at the beginning, I think that parents do have the right to say, look, I here's what I would want my child to be taught, and at the end of the day, the onus is with the parent. At the same time, I don't think any of those parents would ever kind of promote anything that would be discriminatory. I'm not saying you'll find people like that within any community, guaranteed, but I've spoken to teachers about this topic that teach at Sikh schools, and they said it would be very unlikely that there would be any sort of unified protest against this topic being taught. And I think I just want to go back to what Bhavit said. I think there's a big difference in recognizing what is being taught is not like encouraging a certain kind of, sexual orientation or practice or whatever. It's just understanding that, you know, there's different people in the world, and this is how you recognize that they're different, and that's it. Accept them for who they are, and, you know, that's it.
Fundamentally, what this comes down to really is there's a push and pull, isn't there, between effectively state and what society deems acceptable, and also religion and what religion deems acceptable. And some might say that the world and society is changing at a really fast pace and, you know, completely outstripping religion when it comes to going forward, as some might say, and accepting lots of different people or beliefs, whereas religion is not keeping up, or religion is what religion is, therefore there is no wiggle room. What would you say to that? What would you say to that tension, that push and pull? Let's start with you, Bhavit.
I think religions have always evolved, you know, whether we accept it or not.
Are they evolving fast enough here?
I don't know. But I think certainly people are evolving. And I think that, you know, I know loads of people who are very staunch Muslims, very strict Muslims, or very strict Sikhs or Hindus or Christians, Catholics, for example, where their religion does say something very black and white about this particular subject. But then that can be interpreted in different ways. There's lots of things in the scriptures that are written, and there's a letter of the law and a letter of the spirit. The letter of the law might say this is wrong, or this is bad, or this is haram, or this is you're going to go to hell, or you're not going to, you know, this is not a good thing. But the letter of the spirit encourages us to say, well, we're all human beings. We all need to be compassionate. Ultimately, our religions all do promote compassion and peace. And so if people are living a certain way, not out of choice, but because that's the way they are, then surely we need to be compassionate. That's what the letter of the spirit says. I know friends who are staunch Muslims or staunch Hindus, but then they also work with gay people, and they are not, you know, they're not homophobic in their work environment. They're actually very friendly and very, you know, very nice. Mm-hmm. The question here is whether we as adults can make that compromise, or we can make that adjustment, or we can make that
for our children.
Very sensible thing for our own views and our own selves. Mm-hmm. But yeah, what about our children? The topic here is, you know, do you want to put children in a place where they do get confused about these things because they're told one thing at, you know, Sunday school or at home by their families, and then the schools teach something else, and that can get very confusing for
Okay, Barbara,
children.
we're going to move on just because we're running out of time. I want to get the other two, their opinions in as well.
I when it comes to is religion evolving fast enough, I think it's evolving at a really good pace based on where it came from. But I feel like what's evolving too fast is this kind of is society almost, is as the state, if you like, because I think I read somewhere I read how they want to introduce this whole idea of not telling children what gender they are. Mm-hmm. Like I think there's reaching a point where it's freedom of speech and rights, equality rights and everything, but then there's a point where it's just gone crazy. Like, let kids be kids. Like, there's no need to confuse them. Like, if they're talking about bringing it
kids aren't naive though, are they? They know what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's a key point, actually.
Then they're not. It's not about that they've been being like. We have adults that, with all the information that they have to hand, they still don't act right. Like, we can't expect children, when you give them too much information, like, you need to kind of raise them in a way that they can kind of manage and digest the information. If this was being questioned whether or not should we introduce it into secondary school, my stance might be a little different. But primary school, let children be children. It's unnecessary. Okay. And bringing it back to the idea of we need to promote compassion and everything. And like I said, I was raised in a household where, you know, being a homosexual is not acceptable. It's not in line with my religion. It's not in line with my culture. It wasn't introduced to me in primary school, nor was it introduced to me at secondary school. But I've grown to have many people around me that...
I'm going to have to move on very quickly to 20 seconds or so. Running out of time.
In terms of, is religion progressive enough, I feel blessed that I'm part of a faith that is completely kind of way ahead of time, way ahead of things that are currently still being introduced and worked on in society in terms of the Sikh faith and discrimination. I did want to make a point about being naive about what kids know, because I remember being 7 or 8 years old, listening to my older brother's music.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave it there. But thank you very much to all my guests today, Thana Al-Gaban, Jasveer Singh, and also Bhavit Mehta.